Greetings, welcome to the Metal Books Tavern, and today I'm going to be behind the scenes for the entire video. This is my bookshelf tour video. Such videos need updates around once a year or even once in 6 months or something, because there are books that come to the bookshelf and there are books that leave the bookshelf, and so this is my entire bookshelf tour as for June 2023. Before I begin filming, let's get all of these things that are on the bookshelf. Alright, my bookshelf is clean now from all the non-bookish things. I'm going to go through that bookshelf very quickly. If you have seen my previous reading vlog, you know that I had the bookshelf reorganization over there, and there are the books that I intend to read very soon. So the very first book is Talisman by Stephen King and Peter Straub. I'm going to read this very soon. Next is Farmer Giles of Ham by J.R. Tolkien and Other Tales. I want to read this too. Stranger in a Stranger Land by Robert Heinlein. I need to finish this. Next two are two Hermann Hesse books. The Last Summer of Klingzor and Gertrude. Next is Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe. The Divine Comedy by Dante. The State by Plato. Politics by Aristotle. Metaphysics by Aristotle, and Criticism of Pure Reason by Immanuel Kant. Now here come the pile of books that I have already read. This edition is called Exclusive Classics in Russian. Beneath the Wheel by Hermann Hesse, one of my favorite novels. Damien by Hermann Hesse, could have been better. 1984 by George Orwell. Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Lord of the Flies by William Golding. Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. This edition also contains Pearl, but I haven't read it. Stepford Wives by Ira Levin. Fugue for a Darkening Island by Christopher Priest. Little Women by Louisa May Alcott, and The Haunted Hotel by Wilkie Collins. Now here are smallest book in English. Unfinished Tales by Numenor and Middle-earth by J.R.R. Tolkien. I need to read this. A Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin. I will read this year. And next come two Penguin Classics Great Ideas editions. The Power of Words by Simone Weil and The Freedom to be Free by Hannah Arendt. I read them both. Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. This is Signet Classics. Fear and Trembling by Soren Kierkegaard. The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. Easy Read in English Language by Ilya Frank. This is for English learners. The Hound of Baskervilles by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. And then there were none by Agatha Christie. The Russian translation was better. Then come books in Russian. Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Ethics by Aristotle. And Grandma Asks to Say She's Sorry by Frederick Backman. I don't remember the full title. Now here come the Agatha Christie books and the pocketbook editions. These Agatha Christie books are And Then There Were None, one of my favorite books. The Murder on the Orient Express, Death on the Nile, Hickory Dickory Dock, and Death Comes at the End. And then the pocketbooks. The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. Morphium, A Young Doctor's Notebook by Mikhail Bulgakov. Everything is Illuminated by Jonathan Safran Foer. This is the basis of the film Everything is Illuminated. Dancing Men by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. This is a collection of Sherlock Holmes stories. Fathers and Sons by Ivan Turgenev, in Russian known as Fathers and Children. I don't know why it's Fathers and Sons in English. Fahrenheit 454 by Ray Bradbury. And finally the last pile, On Writing by Stephen King. The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. American Gods by Neil Gaiman. Those Spoke Zarathustra by Friedrich Nietzsche. The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli. 12 Chairs by Ilf and E. Petrov. The Great Chessboard by Zbigniew Brzezinski. The World Order by Henry Kissinger. And The Art of War by Sun Tzu. Alright, this shelf is finished. Now let's go to the bookshelf of awesomeness. This is my favorite shelf. This is all fantasy bookshelf, and this is some of the greatest fantasy books ever. So this is The Neverending Story by Mikhail Ende. The Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis, all 7 books in one volume. These are all the Kingkiller Chronicle books by Patrick Rothfuss. This is The Name of the Wind. And these 2 are The Wise Man's Fear, split into 2 parts. So these books are all A Song of Ice and Fire series by George R. R. Martin. This is the first one. This is A Game of Thrones, A Clash of Kings, A Storm of Swords, A Feast for Crows, and The Dance with Dragons split into 2. Now, A Feast for Crows is in a different edition because I was very impatient. I really wanted to continue reading. Unfortunately, the bookstore didn't have the film cover edition, but that's okay because this one stands out and it's kind of unique. And also the film cover has Jon Snow on it, and I don't like Jon Snow. Now, of course, next come Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan, The Eye of the World, The Great Hunt, The Dragon Reborn, and Shadow Rising. I need to buy the next books. Next come all 6 Dune books by Frank Herbert in 2 volumes. Dune Messiah, and Children of Dune in 1 volume, and next come God Emperor of Dune, Heretics of Dune, and Chapter House of Dune. And finally, the Stormlight Archive series by Brandon Sanderson, The Way of Kings, Words of Radiance, Oathbringer in 2 parts, Rhythm of War in 2 parts. I have already read them all. On this bookshelf, I really need only The Wise Man's Fear, Shadow Rising, and Dune Volume 2 with parts 4 to 6. And of course, I need to continue Wheel of Time. Definitely my favorite bookshelf. Now let's go down. This is also my favorite bookshelf, I can say. Okay, here we have the First Law series by Joe Abercrombie in different editions. The Blade Itself, Before They Are Hanged, and The Last Argument of Kings. I heard they are adapting the books set in the world of the First Law, but unfortunately they are not adapting the first trilogy. Adapt these books into films or TV shows, somebody, please. These are amazing, very filmable books. So this is Pan's Labyrinth, Labyrinth of the Faun by Cornelia Funke and Guillermo del Toro. I read that one in the last few days. Coraline by Neil Gaiman. Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card. I Am Ozzy by Ozzy Osbourne. Enter Night, Metallica biography by Mick Wall. Come As You Are, The Story of Nirvana by Michael Azerrad. Oh no, it's History of Nirvana, sorry. Next comes my comfort fiction, The Book Thief by Markus Zusak. J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, in Russian, all alone. Don't ask me about the first 6 books. 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. Now these are Tolkien stuff. I recently had a video about my J.R.R. Tolkien collection. You can check that out. The Hobbit. Fellowship of the Ring. The Two Towers, Return of the King, and The Silmarillion. Now these are all Stephen King books. Dead Zone, Joyland, Full Dark No Stars, Needful Things, The Long Walk and The Running Man in 1 volume, and Revival. Next come Carrie, The Shining, and It, which I haven't finished. I'm still over here. And next come the Witcher books by Andrzej Sapkowski. I still need the 7th one. The Last Wish, Sword of Destiny, Blood of the Elves, A Time of Contempt, Baptism by Fire, and The Tower of the Swallow. I haven't read that one yet. Yeah, great bookshelf. And now to the English bookshelf. Okay, on here you have the Macmillan's Library collection. These are Grimm's fairy tales, and these are Hans Christian Andersen's best fairy tales. Now the next come the 5 of the 7 Harry Potter books by J.K. Rowling. You have the Philosopher's Stone, Chamber of Secrets, Prisoner of Azkaban, which I haven't continued, Order of the Phoenix, and The Half-Blood Prince. This and this are definitely my favorite books in the series, and I still need Goblet of Fire and Deathly Hallows. Then comes more Tolkien stuff, The Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, and The Return of the King, which I'm still reading, and The Fall of Arthur, that I want to read this year. Next come The Blade Runner by Philip Dick, or to be exact, Do Android's Dream of Electric Sheep. I wanna call this the Blade Runner book. The Crucible by Arthur Miller. Next come the Neuromancer series by William Gibson, or to be exact, the Sprawl series, which I need to continue. I've read the first 50 pages of Neuromancer. I need to continue. Neuromancer, Count Zero, Mona Lisa Overdrive. Next come Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. I really want to read this one. One of the reasons I want to read this is because it's a standalone fantasy novel. And it's also Brandon Sanderson's debut work. Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery, which I still need to continue. I read the half of the book. A Gentleman in Moscow by Amaro Tales. I'm going to read this in autumn. I want to read this in autumn, definitely. Homo Deus by Yuval Noah Harari. I read Sapiens and 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. Now this one is coming. And finally, more Tolkien stuff on fairy stories. Bern and Luthien, Children of Húrin, The Fall of Gondolin, and The Letters of J.R.R. Tolkien. Now Penguin Classics books, both by John Milton, Areopagitica and other writings. This one has The Tenure of Kings and the Magistrates, and Paradise Lost. And next come the Stephen King books, 11, 22, 63, different seasons. This one has the story Apt Pupil, which is one of my all-time favorite stories by Stephen King, and Misery, also my favorite. The Amazing Maurice and His Educated Rodents by Sir Terry Pratchett. I already read this and I liked it. Bohemian Rhapsody, the definitive biography of Freddie Mercury by Leslie Ann Jones. A History of Heavy Metal by Andrew O'Neill, and finally Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind by Yuval Noah Harari. Now, of course, there are more English books down here. Let's go through them. You know, because it's kinda hard for me to go through this place, I definitely going to use this German flag to point out the books. So here we have The Kingkiller Chronicle by Patrick Rothfuss, in English The Name of the Wind and The Wise Man's Fear. Here you have The Rockstar's Guide to Life. I need to finish this. This is book in Georgian is Just Kids by Patti Smith. Speaking of Patti Smith, I got recently into her music and I had it on repeat and I liked it a lot. And this book in Georgian, and this book in Georgian is Me, Grandma Iliko and Ilarioni by Nodar Dumbadze. This is a book I need to read. Oh, speaking of German, here are the two books I got when I started learning German. This is German Jokes by Ilya Frank. This is the same guy who wrote jokes in English up above, and short stories in German for A2 B1 learners. So here's Dark Materials by Philip Pullman. This is the British edition, by the way. This contains all three books, The Northern Lights, The Subtle Knife, and my hated The Amber Spyglass. This ginger book is Anxious People by Frederick Beckman, The Martian by Andy Weir, Equal Rights by Sir Terry Pratchett, The Queen's Gambit by Walter Tevis, The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins, Johann Wolfgang Goethe Faust. Sorry, I butchered the name. So these are the Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children series by Ransom Riggs. The first one, Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, The Hollow City, and The Library of Souls. So this one is Land of Oz by Frank L. Baum, both in English and Russian. First you read the story in English and then in Russian. Then you have the biography of BBC's TV show Sherlock. This book tells about the making of the show. Martin Eden by Jack London. The Iliad by Homer. The Hound of Baskervilles by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. So this small book is the Zwergenesse by Wilhelm Hauff. Oh, it's a good thing that I got the German flag, because the next book is The Shortest History of Germany by James Hawes. And the next two books are George R.R. Martin books, Fever Dream and Tough Voyaging. Fever Dream is quite an underrated book about vampires. I recommend reading that. So the next three books are All Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand, split into three parts. Non-contradiction, or, and A is A. The next six books are all the Scott Pilgrim graphic novels, although I don't remember the titles of them. And the next book is The Ichabod by J.K. Rowling. This is a very beautiful edition. And the next is Women in Battle by... oh, sorry, this is written in Georgian and the authors are Norwegian, therefore I can't pronounce their names correctly. And finally, this is the last bookshelf here. So this is Favorite Dream by George R.R. Martin in English. This is David Copperfield by Charles Dickens. Next book is Orphans of the Sky by Robert Heinlein. This appeared in the Russian version of Book on Haul, but eventually I decided to keep this book. Same with The Cuckoo's Calling by Robert Galbraith, also known as J.K. Rowling. Ah, no, sorry, I confused this book with this one. This one was supposed to go to Unhaul. This is a collection of sci-fi stories by Arthur Clarke. Now this is the book that I wrote, Nightingale Divine. It's on Amazon. Online version exists. Next book is Cujo by Stephen King, and it also has Cycle of the Werewolf in this edition. Next two books are all five Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy books. I don't remember their titles, unfortunately. Now this red book is Pet Sematary by Stephen King. This one is also by Stephen King. This is Lizzie's Story. This is the Finnish textbook, Opipuhumaan Suomea, to learn Finnish. Next one is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. Now these three books are the Maze Runner series by James Dashner, The Maze Runner, The Scorched Trials, and The Death Cure. And finally, the last books are No Is Not Enough by Naomi Klein, 21 Lessons for the 21st Century by Yuval Noah Harari. It's hard for me to pronounce his name. The next one is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Roald Dahl in Georgian. When Giants Walk the Earth by Mick Wall, the biography of Led Zeppelin. The Diary of a Wimpy Kid by Jeff Kinney, and Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. And now that's all. These are all the books on my bookshelf as for June 23rd, 2023. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. What books do you own? Let me know down in the comments. See you next time. Goodbye.